Hello and welcome back. I've been having so much fun making content around astrocartography lately. The last video I made really blew up, and so I'm eternally grateful for any new followers on the page and also people who've been with me for the journey for quite some time. So today we're going to dive in and we're going to be doing something super cool. So we're going to look at two things that are very important for understanding where the best place for us to operate in. So this is the environment, and it's part of one of the variables in human design. So this is really like, what kind of environment do we thrive in? And do we thrive in it for more work, or do we thrive in it more passively and receptively to recharge in? Because that is also a very important consideration. So when we operate in this environment, we're essentially operating from a place of greater purity. There's more resonance with our natural flow and attunement. So when you combine this with astrocartography, and you know the lines, here's the lines that we saw in the last video, and these are based on the 4 cardinal points in your chart. So when you take a look at the lines, there's obviously going to be different climates and different geographical areas along these lines. So within that, you want to kind of get more selective at a local level. Also, if you're not moving anywhere in the world and you're staying put where you are, you can fine-tune your space and you can make your environment more conducive to who you are. So this is a really powerful way to start to explore and to experiment a bit and see if changing up your environment actually gets you more into alignment and, kind of increases your good juju in life and your good vibes. So let's take a look here. There's a gate line, which we're familiar with in human design, but then you can actually subdivide it even further. So you can go down to the level of color. And so basically, colors are 6 subdivisions of a line. And then there's something even smaller than that called tone, which is 1 color is equal to 6 tones. And then finally, we arrive at base. And base, there's 5 bases for each tone. So we end up getting a very, very small subdivision. So there's 64 gates times 6 lines times 6 colors times 6 tones times 5 bases. You can see that these are very small subdivisions, but they matter. Now, I'm not going to get into color, tone, and base theory in this video. It's a very nuanced and detailed topic, and that will be for another time. I am going to be putting together some material on this, of course, because this stuff is really fascinating, and it shows you how specific your individuation journey can get. So anyway, that's a little bit on the line substructure, but the reason why I'm telling you this is because, so you need to know this when you're looking at your environment. And basically, if you open your chart up in Genetic Matrix or some of the other human design profile sites, you can also see this too, but you'll see these 4 arrows pointing, and you'll also see these numbers underneath. So here, the number in the triangle is the tone, and the number in the circle is the color. So these are the subdivisions of the line for very specific variables. Now, today we're only going to be looking at the environment, which is this one here, and it's based on the design north node. And why we're doing that is because we're tying this into this exploration that I've been on lately about finding our ideal environment, finding our home. And so once you found your home location, it's like you want to pick the right microclimate and the right environment, right? Because if you're had the choice between the beach or the top of a mountain, one of them might work a lot better for you. So anyway, here we want to look at this design north node, which is this one right here, that gate. And basically, once we have our design north node, we can see that we can subdivide it. So the gate is 45, the line is 1, then the color, which is next, is 4, and the tone is 5. And what's nice about Genetic Matrix is you don't have to go looking up in an external table. They just give it to you right here. But they basically say your environment is mountains, passive. Now, that's cool. I know what mountains are, but what does passive mean? And what does that really mean? That doesn't really tell me a lot of information. I might be afraid of heights or something. Or I'm not outdoorsy. I am, by the way. I love mountains. But anyway, it has a deeper meaning to it. There's a symbolic meaning. So the ideal environment of mountains, it could be taken literally, like living at high altitude in mountains, or it could mean any place that's really elevated, such as the upper floor of an apartment building, a high rise, the second floor of a house on a little hill, whatever. So the key to this environment is that there's slightly less oxygen present That's an interesting one in some of the classical definitions, and also slightly fewer people. So I interpret the slightly less oxygen, meaning that you want your lungs to work harder. It's good for you to do a little bit more cardio. And that's very true of me, by the way, is I actually have asthma. So for me to do cardio, it improves my health greatly, which is an interesting little correlation here. So doing best with your own space where you have a wider vantage over a larger landscape. So this is really for the mountain type. The lower level of oxygen stimulates your brain and body to work harder, which is actually a good thing for you. And the perspective offers your brain plenty of visual sensory input to imagine and see the bigger picture. So this is pretty true of me. And I do want to point out too that this is actually my tropical environment. So again, it is given by the design north node, and we're looking at the line substructure and the color and the tone specifically. I'm not going to put the chart here, but I actually am doing a workshop on your environment, not just your environment, but your elemental balance, and also astrocartography. You can find that in the description below. And I will be going into detail more on deriving this and also on the different sub categories here, because I'm just going to cover my own for demonstration, and you're free to look up yours, or if you want to join the workshop, it's pay what you want, and you can get my guide that I'm preparing for you on that. So anyway, that is mountains environment, and that definitely rings true. But this is my tropical chart, and you guys know that I like tropical, but I also really love true sidereal because I feel like it gives us a true picture of who we are. So the second part of this, I'm now going to look at my environment in true sidereal, but I'm also going to show you a cool little trick. And that cool little trick is actually how to get an accurate true sidereal chart in genetic matrix, because there's a couple steps involved, and I get lots of questions from people on this exact topic. So I want to show you exactly how we do it. So the first thing I always do is go over to cosmichumandesign.com, and I get my Cosmic Human Design chart. It's very easy. You just go to the site, you click create a free chart, you put in your information in UTC timing, and you should get something that looks like this. It's not the greatest looking thing, but it gives you the right information. In genetic matrix now, if I wanted to switch from tropical to true sidereal, I used to go like this and do it. However, they put this new feature in, and there's also another step that we've always had to do, which is the SVP point to make it more accurate. So if you want to get your true sidereal, you go over here, you click true sidereal-C from the list, Chimenti. I just use the global settings for house, and I use user-defined SVP. This is very important because if you don't put this in, the next step doesn't work. So the SVP is basically the fine-tuning of the reference point for the sidereal point, because it does change, obviously, with the precession of the equinoxes. So we're always kind of doing an offset calculation. So I've gone ahead and I prepared, thanks to Annalena. She basically created this. I saw a video, and we were chatting about it, and I watched the video and I recreated one that I can share with you guys here based on her calculations. So thank you so much, Annalena, for that. This is awesome. But it basically, for whatever year you're born in, you get your SVP point. So year, SVP, this is the change per year. So I'm born in 1984. I go over here, 3.722. And then I go back to my chart, and I've already typed it in, 31.722. So it is important that you get the correct SVP value, and you don't just try to fudge it, because we're talking about a very, very fine grain change, which is this color and tone. So they are very sensitive. So I basically plug in the SVP value, and now this chart should be more or less accurate. Now, I've noticed it doesn't line up exactly with Cosmic Human Design, and I think that there still is a little bit of discrepancy, but this is the best way to get the closest value for you. And usually the only thing that's off in my case is the design moon is off just by one line, and the moon is the fastest moving unit. So I'm not sure exactly why there's a little bit of a discrepancy, but this is the correct calculation. And so therefore, once you add in your correct SVP for the year of your birth, you can now take a look at an accurate version of your environment. So this is an extra step for those that want to go and look at your true sidereal, but it's very worth it, because when I came across Caves Selective, that kind of changed everything for me. So Caves Selective is essentially where we need our own space. We need our own little laboratory, and we need to feel safe and comfortable in the cave. Good lighting, good little diffuser, nice furniture. I don't even have furniture in my cave yet, but my cave does feel cozy. It got all my little lab equipment. So the other thing that's interesting about this cave's environment for me is this is more like a man cave, like a place where I go to work. It's a selective cave. So I'm selective about who comes into my cave. So the interesting thing here too is caves do best in quiet places. So I've noticed that if there's a lot of external noise, it really sort of irritates me. So my workspace needs to be sort of in an enclosed place. Now we live in the rainforest, so there's big trees all around the house, and this is the perfect cave environment because it's a room in my house in the forest, and it feels so good to just sit here and I get so much done. On the other hand, there's another type of caves. So I'm not going to explain to you exactly the interplay of tone and bass, but I'll just say that there's another one that is actually about going around to different caves. So it's kind of like having, in a way, more close-knit connections with people in these private environments. So this would be more like where you're selective with your friends, but you actually go to their place and they let you into their inner sanctum, you could say. So this is a super cool way to find your environment. And this is also how you properly do your chart in Genetic Matrix. And I get asked this question a lot from people. So it's really important to, show you guys how it's done. So I can just refer you to this video next time you have questions. But that's essentially it. It's just the SVP. It looks scarier than it is. And effectively, you just change your chart astro settings here. And just so put in true sidereal C, global settings, user defined SVP, and the SVP from the spreadsheet that I've linked below, and you're good to go. So hope you enjoyed this video on the environment. And I'm actually doing a big workshop now. So this is kind of part 2 of finding home. And this is in your element is what it's called. So we're going to look at the in-depth details of this environment variable in human design. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the color and base. Also, too, you're going to get a guide that gives you all the different configurations of environments. And not only that, but we're also going to look at elemental balance. So your air, earth, wind, fire. And when you get that into balance, life just flows. So this is like what activities and routines and climate actually suits you best. And this has been something I've been doing in one-on-one readings that have been blowing people's mind, but I want to show you guys how to do it so you can figure it out for yourself, or you could, share it with other people if you're a reader. So there's a link to that. It's a Pay What You Want workshop. It's coming up on November 19th or 20th. And if you're watching this after the workshop's passed, there should be a link to where you can get a replay for yourself. So I've got you covered no matter what. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and I will see you in the next one. I've got it planned. We're actually going to dive into elemental balance in the next one, and it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of revelations for you. Take care.